Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Morning Garden Show, and I am excited to be here today. I'm excited every day, but I'm especially excited today. I got to tell you, I got here. I looked at my emails and also my messages, and I'm getting a ton of information from the stores. I mean, they're selling the seeds now because they know they got the best time to really rack up their money and keep their business functioning is in the early spring and also in the fall. If they don't make their money now, when it gets into the winter months, they're going to have to take a hit. That's just part of it. Um, the whole thing about it is gardening is just exciting in the fall because you have less insects to deal with. You have less of a problem with keeping things moist. It's easier working in the garden when it's nice and cool, and you get to pick plants that let's just say these plants are less fussy. You know, you have plants that you put in the ground, they're mostly green. You put them in and they just do well. Collard greens, kale, broccoli, all kinds of, I mean, you got winter cabbages that you can grow. They call them winter cabbage, but they pretty much is like a cool season cabbage. And you can get, and you can absolutely, you could just have fun with it right now. Spring is good because you're all excited because you're just getting into the garden. But fall is especially exciting when you can get things in the ground and enjoy the weather at the same time. And be quite frankly honest, I love a big, huge pot of collard greens and kale with smoked meat in it. I don't know if any of you've ever had that, but I know that when you have this kind of meal, it's special. And plants that thank you for the thumbs up. Plants tend to get sweeter when the frost hits them, and so this is a really good deal. So I'm absolutely excited. So I'd like to hear in the upcoming weeks what are you doing to get your garden started off for the fall, or do you plan on starting the fall garden? Um, be careful. Um, uh, the prices are going to be different because they're trying to get as much money as they can before it goes into the winter months. And you got to really shop around for seeds because seeds are much higher than they once were a few years ago. They're much higher. So I happen to have all the seeds that I'm going to do and grow. And then I like to grow my own seeds. I don't like to keep every year go out and purchase more seeds. I like seeds that I'm familiar with. Thank you for the thumbs up. I like to get the seeds that grow from my garden so they do better anyway. They just you put them in the ground. They're already familiar with your soil. They already know what the genetics of your soil is, and they just start growing. When you put seeds from another source into your garden, those seeds have to become familiar with the makeup of your soil, and then they start growing. So it takes a little time for that to happen. Um, the the thing about it is plants that you eat when you grow your own, they're just so much better for you. They make you feel better. I ate two peaches yesterday from my garden, and I gotta tell you, I wish I had more, but um, the trees have been under a lot of stress with the weather the way it's been. Maybe you're experiencing the same thing, but I know that they're going through something because my trees used to produce 60, 65 peaches on one tree, and that one tree, and that's a dwarf tree, and I would have all these medium-sized peaches, um, yeah, about like that, medium-sized peaches that I would just eat until I just couldn't take anymore. And what I like doing with the peaches is also making ice cream with them, but that's another situation altogether different. I have I have one, two, three. I think I have 4 plum trees. One, two, three, 4 plum trees. Yeah, yeah. And those plum trees, I can't wait. I got the one that they call a Stanley plum, and it when you read through the ads that they put together for these trees, they tell you that Stanley is a plum that is a gardener's favorite. It's like a standard, the standard, Stanley plum. And then I got another plum tree called the Santa Rose, which I have seen what some of the plums look like. I've never eaten one, I don't believe, but I bought the tree and I put it in, and I was like happy because Santa Rose is a beautiful plum, to look at. The Stanley plum is a dark purple, oval shape, sort of, and it's supposed to be a very good tasting plum as well. But plums are very difficult to grow. My understanding is that birds eat them, insects go for them because the thin skin, and they're like grapes. Um, uh, they start producing this sugar aroma in the air, and that's how the birds find them. And also, the insects are attracted to that sweet smell, and then they know exactly when that piece of fruit is ready. Is when they produce that sugar. The birds now go immediately for my grapes. As soon as my grapes turn color, they go right for them. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. That, and also my what they call them, blueberries. Yeah, they eat them up. They eat them up. They don't even. And I don't mind sharing them with some of them, but when they eat them up, I got to come up with a plan. Um, I don't mind sharing a few apples or plums or pears with the birds, but when they eat them all up, I gotta say, wait a minute, you're not being fair. So we gotta make sure that we got find a way to coexist. This my boy here. That's, yep, that's my boy. He's a heavy cat. He's big. He's pretty too, and that we call him Pretty Boy. Because when he was a kid, he never really liked nobody to touch his fur. He's always do something different. But that's my boy. But the thing about it is, get ready. Try to stay in your area. Try to stay up to date to when you're going to start putting your things in the garden, and start shooting some videos and start putting up some videos. And if you have any information out there, I'm not the only one with information. Believe me, I want everybody to be out there helping each other out and trying to help each other grow something to eat. Because right now we're in a situation now where we need to learn how to grow things at cost. Because my big thing is to grow things at cost. It doesn't make sense to me to grow something and it costs me more to grow than it does to you just go buy it. And if you go buy it, you can get substandard, food. That's my thing on it. Because I have a video up where I went to a grocery store and they had everything on that whole stand that sold it, their vegetables and fruits. It just looked rotten. And I shot it. And I said, "Oh my God, look at this!" I saw mold on fruit. I saw these little people call them fruit flies. They were all over the fruits and everything. And I looked at that, and the case wasn't clean. And I said, "They're actually selling this. They're selling this." So what I did, I got on the phone, I called the manager and said, "Hey, look, your fruit stand looks like crap." I said it's got gnats flying all around it. You got rotten fruit. And when I came back in the next day, they had tore the stand apart. And when they tore that stand apart, they replenished it with fresh decorative those dividers, which look like plants. They cleaned everything. They uh, put the fruit up there instead of leaving it in the back in cases. Let it get a little rotten and then bring it out and put it in the stand. They just put all the fresh stuff out and then I watched it after about 2.5 months go right back to the way it was at first. And I said, this is why I don't like buying fruits and vegetables from these stores because their main objective is to sell it. They're not concerned about how it tastes. They're not concerned about how much it costs. They just want to sell it. And that's not all fruit vendors. Some fruit vendors actually care, especially like if you go to a farmer, somebody who takes stock and cares about their product because they know you don't have to come back. But big chain stores, not good. They shouldn't do some of the stuff they do. So 18 years ago, I started gardening and I started trying to learn every and anything I could about gardening. And I went off on the wrong course when I first started gardening. I actually started buying expensive fertilizers. I started using man-made fertilizer when I first started out. I started spending money and I thought the only way for me to grow a garden was to go to a big box store and buy big bags of stuff. And once I got the bags of what they call it, lime and this and that, and you know, and then one day I actually sat down and I looked at the numbers, and I said I spent $290 in my garden this year. And then I looked at what I was actually producing, which was a few tomatoes and a few um, beans and things like that. And I said, wait a minute, these are some of the most expensive beans I've ever grown. I said, because these beans, just these handful of beans, cost me $290 if you really look at it, because you got maybe 8, 9 tomatoes and some beans. So what I did was I said, this has got to change. Why is it that my situation is I'm not growing very much? What is going on? And I looked at the soil, which at the time was just crap. It really was. It was clay. It was off brown kind of color. It was hard, hard pan. The soil was just something that if you were a plant and you asked yourself, would you like to grow in this soil? And you would say, no, I wouldn't want to grow in that soil. So then I started trying to learn what could I do to correct the soil. And I went to stores where I went to nurseries and I asked questions. And all they pointed me to, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen or ladies, the only thing they pointed me to was a bag of some type of product that they were selling. And these bags were 10 and 12 and $14, and they didn't mind what it cost. All they wanted to know was, do you have a credit card or cash? And that was it. So I said, something is wrong with what I'm doing. How is it that I'm I'm paying so much and getting so little? And then I kept hearing people talking about things like, the cost of fertilizers, farmers, the cost of fertilizers. And then I kept thinking, and they said that organic fertilizers are more expensive than fertilizers that are man-made. And I thought, considering all this, and I started considering what would be the overall effect of using man-made fertilizers. And then it hit me. I started thinking about old-time farmers, 1800s, early 1900s. Then I started looking at during the war back then when they had these gardens that they called victory gardens. Now, in some of the information I got there, they still use um, man-made fertilizers in some cases. But those old-time farmers knew that plants eat organic matter that's been broken down by the life forms in the soil. They knew that. They knew that. But when the government stepped in, they had all this stuff left over from the war, and they said, some of this could be used to control insects, some of this could be used for different purposes. let's see what we can do to market this. And that's what they did. And farmers got their fields hooked on this bad stuff. And this bad stuff is what today are killing the bees, some of it, and also killing us, is that they continue to use it because it produces food, but the quality, if you were to actually put a plant that you grew like a bell pepper or a tomato under a microscope and you looked at its genetic makeup, and then you looked at a genetic makeup of a piece of fruit uh, from the 50s, and you would see a difference. There would be a difference in, or if you look at a piece of fruit that was grown in the forest, same seed, but grown in the forest, and you would see a piece of fruit that was higher in quality than the one grown by the man-made chemical. But so I started looking at ways um, to um, to grow this stuff. And what I found was that you could use urine, you could use feces of different animals, you could use uh, fish parts. Like if you went to a fish stall and you say, well, I'm going to really grow great peppers and great tasting tomatoes, and you went to a fish stall and you said, excuse me, sir, what do you do with the heads and the guts that come out of those fish? And he'll say, well, we just throw them away. And you say, if I brought you a 5 gallon bucket in here with a lid on it, could you fill it up for me? And tip the man something, tip the woman something. And he'll fill it up, and you'll ask him, when can I come back and get some more? You say, sure, no problem. You come back, you put that deep in a hole, cover it over, and then sit the plant right on top of it. Sit the plant on top of it, bury it deep enough so that you're not feeding all the rodents in your area. So once you do that, uh, you will see the microorganisms will go as a natural process into that fish parts that you put in the ground and begin to break it down, begin to congest it and break it down, digest it, excuse me, and break it down. Once it breaks it down into a form that the plant can eat, and they will do this, and they will live and die in the same area and create this rich, fertile soil for your plant to eat. And once your plant eats that soil, your plant will do amazingly well because it's growing the natural way it was intended to grow. An animal goes out in the woods, it drops dead, it sits there on the ground. Some of the other animals eat out of it, whatever they eat. They leave the skin and the bones and some of the material there on the ground. It goes into the ground and it grows some of the most beautiful plants in that area. That's what nature does naturally. And the same thing when you cut down uh, weeds and vines and grass and the leaves fall from the trees in the fall and hit the ground. Once they hit the ground, they decay into the ground and the cycle starts all over again. So it's just a plain cycle. When you think when you got a guy on there are guys on the internet selling formulas, and they sell these formulas. I don't want to call anybody names because I don't want to hurt nobody's business because it's up to whoever buys that stuff. But they make these hyped up formulas that is supposed to force or push the plant into growing at a high rate and they grow at a much faster pace and bigger and whatever. Let me tell you what's wrong with that. It grows outside the normal way a plant's supposed to grow. A plant's not supposed to be forced to grow. And when a plant grows at its normal pace, the way it's supposed to grow, bugs don't eat it up. But when you put something in the ground or in a plant that forces it to grow, it grows faster, which means that all the leaves and everything and the stalk and everything are tender. And bugs are attracted to that. And bugs eat those plants. Let me explain something to you like this. This year, gardening, I have had none, and I mean none of my corn, my okra, my cucumbers, tomatoes. None of the plants were eaten on. None of them. None of them. No bites over on them because I leave all the grasses and the weeds and everything in the location so that that they have a buffet to eat before they even look at my plants. They have a buffet of grass, certain types of weeds, plants, and that's what they eat. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Morning Garden Show. I've enjoyed myself talking to you again this evening. Thank you very much. And I will be doing this again very soon. Thank you.